Millionaire's daughter falls into lion enclosure, but what the poor boy does. Harrison Sterling adjusted his tie knot as he watched the sponsors walking along the trails of the Hope Wildlife Sanctuary. The day was perfect to show the investors how their dollars were being well spent on preserving Brazilian wildlife. His daughter Madison should have been by his side greeting the important people, but as always, she had disappeared into the crowd. That's when the screams began. A sharp, desperate sound echoed through the sanctuary's loudspeakers, followed by the robotic voice of the security system announcing an emergency in the feline sector. Harrison felt his blood run cold when he recognized the voice crying for help. It was Madison. His only daughter, stubborn and rebellious, had fallen into the lion enclosure. The businessman ran toward the screams, pushing people out of the way. When he reached the lion enclosure, the scene he saw made his legs buckle. Madison was lying on the packed dirt floor, unconscious, just a few meters from a male lion watching her with dangerous interest. The protective fence showed signs that someone had tried to climb it. "My daughter!" shouted Harrison, grabbing the bars with trembling hands. It was at that moment he saw a young man wearing the beige uniform of the keepers approach the fence with calculated movements. The boy couldn't have been more than 20. He was thin, with sunburned skin and hands calloused from hard work. Without hesitation, he began to climb the metal fence. "What are you doing? Get down from there!" Harrison yelled at the young man, but the keeper had already jumped inside the enclosure. The lion growled low, turning its attention to the new presence. The young man stood his ground, firm, looking directly into the feline's eyes. "Easy, Zeus. Easy, boy," said the keeper in a low but authoritative voice. Harrison watched in disbelief as the young man began to move slowly toward the animal, always maintaining eye contact. The lion took a few steps toward the keeper, but stopped when the boy raised his right hand in a specific gesture. "Sit, Zeus, sit," commanded the young man. To the astonishment of all watching, the lion obeyed. The keeper took advantage of the animal's moment of distraction to quickly approach Madison. He lifted her carefully in his arms and began walking back toward the fence, always keeping an eye on the lion, which now seemed restless. Zeus stood up and took a few steps toward the two. The young man stopped, turned to the animal, and repeated the sit command. The lion hesitated for a few seconds that felt like an eternity to Harrison, but ultimately obeyed again. The keeper managed to reach the fence and hand Madison over to his colleagues on the outside. Just as he was climbing out himself, Zeus lost patience. The lion charged with a deafening roar and managed to scratch the young man's back with its claws before he jumped to safety. The boy fell on the outside of the fence, panting, his torn shirt stained with blood. Harrison ran to him, while other staff took Madison to the sanctuary's infirmary. "What's your name?" asked Harrison, kneeling beside the young keeper. "Caleb, sir. Caleb Dawson," he replied, wincing in pain. "You saved my daughter. I will never forget this." Caleb tried to get up on his own, but the pain in his back prevented him. Two veterinarians came running with an improvised stretcher. As they carried him away, Harrison heard the young man murmur that he was just doing his job. In the infirmary, Harrison divided his attention between Madison, who was unconscious but stable, and Caleb, who was receiving stitches in his back. The sanctuary's head veterinarian, Dr. Arthur Vance, explained that the boy's injuries were not serious, but that he would need to be off work for a few weeks. "How did he manage to control Zeus like that?" asked Harrison to the veterinarian. "Caleb has a natural gift with animals. He's worked here for 3 years, and we've never had an incident when he's around. The animals trust him." When Madison woke up, her first words were about the keeper who saved her. She wanted to thank him in person, but Caleb had already been taken home. Harrison promised his daughter he would find a way to properly reward the young man. The next day, Harrison found out where Caleb lived. It was a simple brick house in a working-class neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. When he knocked on the door, a middle-aged woman answered, thin, with premature wrinkles on her face caused by hard work. "Good morning. I'm looking for Caleb Dawson. He's resting. Who are you?" "My name is Harrison Sterling. Your son saved my daughter yesterday." The woman's expression changed completely. She became tense, almost aggressive. "You're the Sterling?" she asked with a trembling voice. "Yes, I came here to thank you in person and get out of my house." she interrupted. "Get out right now." Harrison was confused. He didn't understand the woman's hostility. "Mom, I just came to say thank you. Your son was very brave and—" "I said, get out," she shouted, making enough noise to wake the neighbors. Caleb appeared at the door, still with bandages on his back. "Mom, what's going on?" "This man is Sterling, Caleb. The same Sterling who accused me of being a thief 15 years ago and fired me without any rights." The young man looked at Harrison with an expression that mixed surprise and disappointment. Now it all made sense. Caleb Dawson was the son of Martha Dawson, the employee Harrison had fired on suspicion of theft from one of his companies. "Mr. Sterling," said Caleb in a controlled voice, "I appreciate you coming, but I think you'd better leave." "Caleb, wait. Let me explain. I came here to reward you. Your act of courage deserves recognition. I don't need a reward. I was just doing my job." "But you risked your life. Let me at least pay your medical expenses or—" "No." Caleb was firm. "I won't accept anything from you." Caleb's mother put her hand on her son's shoulder in a sign of support. Harrison found himself in an awkward situation. He knew he had committed an injustice against Martha Dawson years ago, but his pride had never allowed him to admit the mistake. "Very well. But if you change your mind, you know where to find me." Harrison returned home troubled. Madison greeted him eagerly, wanting news of the keeper who saved her. "Dad, did you talk to him? How is he? Did you get his address?" "He's fine, honey, but it's complicated." "What do you mean, complicated?" Harrison didn't know how to explain to Madison the history with Caleb's mother. He made up some excuse and went to his office. All afternoon, he couldn't concentrate on work. The image of the anger on Martha Dawson's face wouldn't leave his head. That night, during dinner, Madison asked about Caleb again. "Dad, can you give me his phone number? I want to thank him personally." "Madison, it's better if you forget about this." "Forget about it? The boy saved my life." "I already thanked him for you." "That's it." Subject closed. Madison knew her father well enough to know something was wrong. She decided to find out on her own. The next day, she returned to the sanctuary looking for Caleb. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing, Doctor. Arthur informed her that Caleb was on medical leave, but Madison managed to convince one of the veterinarians to give her the young man's cell phone number. She called him that same afternoon. "Hello? Caleb? It's Madison. The girl you saved yesterday." There was silence on the other end of the line. "Hi, Madison. How are you feeling?" "I'm fine, thanks to you. I wanted to thank you in person. Can you meet me somewhere?" "I don't think that's a good idea." "Why? Did something happen with my dad when he went to your house?" Another silence. "Caleb, your father and my mother have a complicated history." "What history?" Caleb told Madison about his mother's dismissal. He tried to be fair, explaining he didn't know all the details, but that his mother always denied stealing anything from the company. Madison was shocked. She had always admired her father and never imagined he could have committed such an injustice. "Caleb, are you sure about this?" "I am. My mother never lied to me." "And you keep working at the sanctuary even knowing my father is one of the main sponsors?" "I need the job, and I like what I do. I won't let personal matters interfere with my care for the animals." Madison felt even more impressed by the young man's maturity and noble character. They talked for another hour. Caleb told her how he had learned to handle wild animals by watching Dr. Arthur and reading everything he could about veterinary medicine. "You want to be a veterinarian?" "It's my dream, but college is expensive and my mother already makes a lot of sacrifices to keep me studying." "What kind of sacrifices?" "She works as a cleaner in 3 different houses. She leaves home at 5 in the morning and returns at 9 at night. On weekends, she still takes on extra jobs." Madison felt a tightness in her chest. While she complained about the life she led, full of privileges and comfort, Caleb and his mother fought daily just to survive. "Caleb, can I ask you a question?" "Sure. Why did you jump into the lion's cage? Weren't you afraid?" "Of course I was, but you were in danger. I couldn't just stand there watching. Even knowing who I was? Even knowing I'm the daughter of the man who harmed your family? That didn't matter at that moment. You were just a person who needed help. Madison hung up the phone with teary eyes. She had never met anyone with such solid values. That night, she confronted her father in his office. "Dad, I need to know the truth about Martha Dawson." Harrison looked up from the papers he was reviewing. "What are you talking about?" "Raphael's mother. You fired her for theft 15 years ago. Is that really what happened?" Harrison's face hardened. "Who told you that?" "Caleb himself." "Dad, are you sure she was guilty?" "Of course I am. I wouldn't fire anyone without proof." "What proof?" Harrison was silent for a few seconds. "Madison, this is none of your business." "How is it none of my business? That woman's son saved my life. If there was an injustice, we need to correct it." "There was no injustice, and you will not have any more contact with that boy. Do you hear me?" "Why?" "Because I don't want you to. It's not good for our family." "Not good, why? Because he's poor." "Because he's not from our social circle. You have nothing in common." Madison stood up from her chair, outraged. "You're being prejudiced, Dad, and unfair." "I'm being realistic. Forget that boy, Madison. I won't forget. He saved my life, and I will thank him in the way I see fit." Madison left the office, slamming the door. Harrison was left alone, troubled. He knew he had lied to his daughter. In truth, he had never been absolutely certain that Martha Dawson had stolen. The evidence was circumstantial, and he had made the decision driven more by his explosive temper than by a proper investigation. In the following days, Madison began exchanging frequent messages with Caleb. They talked about everything: books, movies, dreams for the future. Caleb shared about his work at the sanctuary, describing each animal's behavior as if they were old friends. Madison discovered the young man had a sharp intelligence and a worldview very mature for his age. He compulsively read everything he could get his hands on about animal biology, veterinary medicine, and environmental conservation. His passion for animals was contagious. "How did you learn so much about lion behavior?" she asked during one of their phone conversations. "By observing and studying. Dr. Arthur lent me several books on African felines, and I spend a lot of time watching Zeus and Cleopatra." "Cleopatra? The lioness. She's older than Zeus and much smarter. She's the one who really rules the territory." Madison was fascinated by the knowledge Caleb demonstrated. He spoke about each animal at the sanctuary like an expert, describing personality traits and specific needs of each species. A week after the accident, Caleb returned to work. Dr. Arthur greeted him with news that left him euphoric. "Caleb, I have a proposal for you." "What kind of proposal, Doctor?" "I want you to be my official assistant. I'll teach you basic veterinary procedures, and you'll help me with animal treatments." Caleb could hardly believe what he was hearing. "But, Doctor, I don't have the training for that." "You have something more valuable: instinct and genuine passion for the animals. The rest can be learned." "What about the salary?" "I'll get you a 30% raise. It's not much, but it's what I can do at the moment." Caleb accepted immediately. When he told his mother the news, Martha Dawson cried with emotion. It was the first professional recognition her son had received. Madison was happy when she learned of Caleb's promotion. She suggested they meet to celebrate, but he politely refused. "I don't think it's wise, Madison. Your father made it very clear he doesn't want us to have contact." "My father doesn't run my life." "Yes, he does, and he has every right. You're still a minor and you live in his house." Madison had recently turned 17. Technically, Caleb was right, but that didn't lessen her frustration. "Then let's meet in secret." "No, I don't want to cause problems in your family." Caleb's maturity and responsibility impressed Madison more and more. She was used to boys her age who were irresponsible and superficial. Caleb was different from anyone she had ever met. Meanwhile, Harrison hired a private detective to discreetly investigate the Dawson family. He wanted to be sure there was nothing in Caleb's past that could compromise his daughter. The investigator found nothing suspicious. On the contrary, he discovered Caleb was an exemplary young man, with no history of problems at school or involvement with drugs or crime. The neighbors had nothing but praise for him and his mother. During the investigation, the detective discovered something that left Harrison disturbed. 3 months after Martha Dawson's dismissal, another employee at the company had been caught stealing. The man confessed to committing other petty thefts, including the one that led to Martha's dismissal. Harrison was devastated by the discovery. He had ruined an innocent family's life. Guilt began to corrode his conscience, but his pride prevented him from admitting the error publicly. At the sanctuary, Caleb flourished in his new role. Dr. Arthur was impressed by how quickly the young man learned medication techniques and veterinary first aid. Caleb demonstrated a natural ability to diagnose health problems in the animals just by observing their behavior. "How did you know Lola had intestinal problems?" Dr. Arthur asked after Caleb alerted him to the jaguar's illness. "She was eating less and spending more time lying down. Also, I noticed she was avoiding sudden movements, as if she had a stomachache." "Excellent observation. You have a future as a veterinarian." Dr. Arthur Vance was a respected professional with over 40 years of experience. He had worked at famous zoos and had important contacts in the veterinary field. His approval meant a lot to Caleb. One afternoon, Madison decided to visit the sanctuary without telling her father. She wanted to see Caleb working and maybe get to talk to him in person. When she arrived, she found Caleb in the primate sector, helping Dr. Vance medicate an injured monkey. The young man held the animal firmly but gently, speaking to it in a low, reassuring tone. "Easy, Simon. It's just some medicine. It'll be over quickly." Madison watched, fascinated, as Caleb managed to keep the monkey calm throughout the entire procedure. When they finished, she approached. "Hi, Caleb." He turned, surprised. "Madison, what are you doing here?" "I came to visit you. I wanted to see how you were doing." Caleb looked around, worried if anyone was watching. "You shouldn't be here." "Why?" "It's a public place. I have the right to visit." "Yes, but—" Dr. Vance approached curiously. "Caleb, are you going to introduce me to your friend?" "Doctor, this is Madison Sterling, the girl who fell into Zeus's cage last week." The veterinarian's eyes widened. "The sponsor's daughter. How are you feeling, my dear?" "Very well, thank you." It was thanks to Caleb. He really is a special young man. I've never seen someone with such natural talent for handling wild animals. Madison felt proud hearing the praise about Caleb. They talked for a few minutes with Dr. Vance recounting several situations where Caleb had impressed the team with his intuition about animal behavior. "Doctor," said Madison, "has Caleb ever thought about going to veterinary school?" "Of course he has. It's his dream. Unfortunately, financial matters are an obstacle." "What kind of obstacle?" Caleb became embarrassed by the direction of the conversation. "Madison, let's talk about something else." "No, I want to know. Maybe I can help." "You can't help, and I wouldn't accept help even if you could." "Why not?" "Because I want to achieve things through my own effort." Dr. Vance observed the interaction between the two young people with interest. It was obvious that Madison had special feelings for Caleb, and that he, despite trying to keep his distance, also cared for her. "Caleb," said the veterinarian, "why don't you show Madison the project you're developing on rehabilitating injured animals?" "What project?" asked Madison curiously. Caleb hesitated, but eventually gave in to Dr. Vance's insistence. He took Madison to a small room where he kept notes and drawings on animal physiotherapy techniques. "I'm studying ways to help animals that have suffered serious injuries recover lost movement," explained Caleb, showing notebooks full of detailed observations. Madison was impressed by the level of knowledge demonstrated in the notes. Caleb had developed his own system for recording each animal's progress, including diagrams and evolution charts. "Caleb, this is incredible. Have you thought about presenting these ideas to experts?" "Experts won't pay attention to an uneducated keeper." "You're wrong. Dr. Vance is an expert and he values your ideas." "Dr. Vance is an exception." They were interrupted by an employee who came to announce that important visitors were arriving at the sanctuary. Caleb hurried to put away his notes. "I need to get back to work." "Caleb, can you give me your cell phone number? I want to keep talking about your projects. You already have my number. No, I mean, officially, so we can talk without having to hide. Caleb thought for a few seconds. All right, but no in-person meetings, okay? For now, said Madison with a smile. That night, Madison told her mother about her visit to the sanctuary. Eleanor Sterling was an elegant 50-year-old woman who had always remained discreet in her husband's business affairs. Mom, did you know about the story between Dad and Caleb's mother? Eleanor almost dropped her teacup. What story? Madison recounted everything she had discovered about Martha Dawson's dismissal. Eleanor was visibly disturbed by the information. Are you sure about this? I am. And I think Dad committed an injustice. Eleanor remained silent for several minutes. Mom? I'm thinking. This story reminds me of something that happened a long time ago. What? Your father came home very upset that day. He said he had fired an employee for theft, but he seemed more troubled than usual. Troubled how? As if he wasn't sure he had done the right thing. I spent weeks trying to talk to him about it, but he changed the subject whenever I brought it up. Madison felt her suspicion was correct. Her father had made a mistake and didn't want to admit it. Mom, do you think we should investigate this story further? I don't know, honey. Your father is very proud. If he did something wrong, it will be hard to get him to admit it. But if there was an injustice, it needs to be corrected. Eleanor agreed, but warned her daughter about the need for caution in dealing with the matter. In the following weeks, Madison and Caleb kept in regular contact through messages. She always asked about his work at the sanctuary, and he shared discoveries about animal behavior and new rehabilitation projects. The communication between them flowed naturally. Caleb had a way of explaining complex subjects that Madison found fascinating. He never treated her like a spoiled rich girl, but as an intelligent person capable of understanding his professional passions. Caleb, can I ask you a personal question? She wrote one night. Go ahead. Have you ever had a girlfriend? There was a considerable time before the reply appeared. Yes, why do you ask? Curiosity. Did it work out? No. We broke up a few months ago. Why? She wanted me to change. Thought I was too serious, too focused on work. And you thought she was wrong? I did. I won't change who I am to please anyone. Madison smiled as she read the reply. Once again, Caleb demonstrated a maturity she rarely found in people his age. Was she from your school? She was. But it never really worked because we have different goals in life. What kind of goals? She just wanted to have fun. I want to build something, make a difference in the world. How? By caring for animals, helping preserve endangered species, educating people about environmental conservation. Madison was moved by the answer. Caleb wasn't just thinking about personal success, but about contributing to something bigger. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. During this period, Harrison noticed that Madison was changing. She had become more thoughtful, questioned his decisions more, and showed interest in topics related to environmental conservation and social responsibility. Madison, why are you reading about environmental NGOs? He asked during breakfast. I'm becoming interested in the subject. Why? Can't I be interested in important causes? Harrison suspected his daughter's change in behavior was related to the young keeper. He decided to take more drastic action. The following week, Harrison scheduled a meeting with Dr. Arthur Vance at the sanctuary. He claimed to want to discuss the sponsorship renewal, but his real goal was to talk about Caleb. Doctor, I need to speak about a specific employee. Of course. Which employee? Caleb Dawson, the keeper who saved my daughter. Ah yes, Caleb is one of our best employees, an exceptional young man. That's exactly what I want to talk about. My daughter is developing a special interest in him. Dr. Arthur fell silent, waiting for Harrison to continue. Doctor, you understand this cannot happen. They are from very different worlds. With all due respect, Mr. Sterling, but I see no problem at all with your daughter's interest in Caleb. He is an honest and hard-working young man, but he is not from our social circle. And is that important? Harrison was surprised by the veterinarian's response. Of course it's important. My daughter has a planned future. She will study business administration, take over part of the family business. She cannot get involved with someone who will distract her from these goals. Mr. Sterling, from what I've observed, Madison's interest in Caleb is precisely sparking in her a desire to get involved in important social causes. I don't see that as a distraction, but as maturity. Harrison realized Dr. Arthur was not willing to cooperate with his plans. Doctor, let me be more direct. I want Caleb transferred to another role, away from contact with visitors. Why? Because I am asking, and because I am one of the main funders of this sanctuary. Dr. Arthur looked visibly uncomfortable. Mr. Sterling, I cannot penalize an exceptional employee over personal matters. I'm not asking you to penalize anyone. I just want him reassigned. And if I refuse? Harrison made a dramatic pause. Then I will have to reevaluate my sponsorship of this sanctuary. Dr. Arthur realized he was being blackmailed. Harrison's sponsorship accounted for almost 40% of the sanctuary's annual budget. Losing that support would be devastating for the project. All right, I will transfer Caleb to the overnight shift. That way he won't have contact with visitors. Harrison left the sanctuary satisfied with the outcome of the conversation. He was sure that, without the possibility of casual encounters, Madison's interest in Caleb would naturally fade. When Caleb arrived at work the following Monday, Dr. Arthur called him for a private conversation. Caleb, I need to make some changes to the work schedule. What kind of changes? I'm transferring you to the overnight shift, from 10 at night to 6 in the morning. Caleb was confused. Why? Did I do something wrong? Dr. Arthur sighed deeply. No, you did nothing wrong. In fact, you are an exemplary employee. Then why the transfer? They're complicated administrative matters. Caleb sensed something was off about the justification. Dr. Arthur, does this have to do with Mr. Sterling? The veterinarian couldn't hide the truth. It does. He thought it best that you not have contact with visitors. Because of Madison? Yes. Caleb was silent for a few minutes, processing the information. All right, I'll accept the transfer. Caleb, you are not obligated to accept. I can try to negotiate with him. No, I don't want the sanctuary to lose its sponsorship because of me. The animals are more important. Dr. Arthur was moved by the maturity of the response. You are a special young man, Caleb. I'm just doing the right thing. That night, Caleb told Madison about the transfer. She was furious. This is absurd. My father can't do something like this. Yes, he can. He has every right to protect you. From what? You are not a threat. Yes, I am. I'm poor, without a college education, the son of a woman he considers a thief. In his view, I'm a bad influence. He is wrong. Maybe. But he's his father, and I need to respect that. I won't stay silent. Madison, don't do anything rash. I don't want to be responsible for problems in your family. It's not your fault, it's my father's prejudice. That night, Madison confronted her father in his office. Dad, I found out you forced Caleb's transfer to the overnight shift. Who told you that? It doesn't matter, is it true? Harrison did not deny it. It's true, and I did it for your own good. For my own good? How so? Madison, you're too young to understand certain things. That boy is not suitable for you. Suitable in what sense? In every sense. You come from completely different social backgrounds. And does that matter? Of course it matters. You will inherit a business empire. You need someone who can help you manage that legacy, not someone who will hinder your growth. Caleb doesn't hinder me at all. On the contrary, he inspires me to be a better person. That's teenage delusion. It's not delusion. He made me realize there are more important things in life than money. Harrison stood up from his chair, annoyed. Look what this boy has already done to you. You're talking like a rebel without a cause. I'm talking like someone who is growing up and questioning values. Values? What values? The value of honest work, of building wealth, of family responsibility. The value of justice, Dad. Of honesty, of humility. Humility? Harrison laughed ironically. You want to talk about humility while living in a mansion and wearing clothes that cost more than that boy's monthly salary. I'm talking about humility of character. Caleb has that. He saved my life and didn't want to accept a reward. He works with dedication even though he earns little. He studies on his own to improve professionally. Those are admirable qualities. And what do you intend to do? Give up all your comfort to live a life of hardship by his side? If necessary, yes. Harrison was shocked by his daughter's determination. You can't be serious. I am. And if you keep persecuting Caleb, I will leave home. Go where? Anywhere far from here. Harrison realized he had underestimated the intensity of his daughter's feelings. He changed his strategy. Madison, are you sure he feels the same way about you? What do you mean? Maybe he's just being polite, or maybe he's interested in your money. Caleb has never shown interest in my money. On the contrary, he always refused any kind of financial help. It could be a strategy to win your trust. Dad, you're being unfair and prejudiced. I'm being realistic. Poor men always try to get close to rich women. Caleb isn't like that. How can you be sure? Madison fell silent. In truth, she wasn't absolutely certain about Caleb's feelings. He always kept a certain distance, never showed explicit romantic interest. If you have doubts, Harrison continued, why not test his sincerity? How? Offer him financial help to go to college. See if he accepts. He's refused help before. Insist. See how far his resistance goes. Madison didn't like the suggestion, but that doubt was planted in her head. Did Caleb really like her, or was it just politeness? In the following days, Madison's mood became unstable. She kept exchanging messages with Caleb, but now she analyzed every word of his, looking for signs of genuine interest. Caleb noticed the change in her behavior. Did something happen? You seem different. Different how? More distant, like you're thinking about something else. I'm fine. Are you sure? Madison decided to follow her father's suggestion. Caleb, can I propose something to you? What is it? I can pay for your veterinary college. Caleb took a while to respond. Madison, we've already talked about this. I don't accept financial help. But why? It would be like an investment in your future. Because I want to achieve things through my own effort. And what if I said that doing this for you would make me happy? I'd say you're being too generous, but my answer is still no. Madison was confused. Caleb's refusal seemed genuine, but she still had doubts about the reasons for his resistance. Caleb, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Do you like me? Another long silence. That's a complicated question. Why? Because liking you won't change our situation. But do you like me? Yes, I do, very much. But that doesn't mean we can have something together. Why not? Because we're from different worlds, Madison. You're the daughter of a millionaire, I'm the son of a cleaning lady. That difference will always be there. It doesn't make a difference to me, but it does to your family and to society. I don't care about society. I do. I don't want to be the poor boy who took advantage of the rich girl. You're not taking advantage of anything. People will think I am, and you'll eventually get tired of having to defend it. I won't get tired. Yes, you will. One day you'll look at me and realize you deserve someone better. Caleb, you're being unfair to yourself. You're smart, hard-working, honest. Any girl would be lucky to have you. But I'm not any girl. I'm me, and I choose you. Caleb was moved by the declaration, but kept resisting. Madison, you're 17. You're going to change your mind many more times about what you want in life. I won't change my mind about you. Yes, you will, and when that happens, I'll be hurt because I let myself believe in something impossible. The conversation left Madison frustrated. She realized Caleb liked her, but that he had built barriers based on social differences. That night, she told her mother about the conversation. Mom, Caleb likes me, but he doesn't want to commit because of the social difference. And what do you intend to do? I don't know. Maybe Dad is right. Maybe it's better to forget. Eleanor was surprised by her daughter's change of heart. You gave up so quickly? I haven't given up, but I don't know how to convince him our differences aren't important. Maybe by showing him you're capable of giving up your comfort. How? By working, having your own achievements, proving you're not just a spoiled rich girl. Her mother's suggestion planted a seed in Madison's head. She began thinking of ways to prove her independence and determination. The next day, Madison looked for Dr. Arthur at the sanctuary. "Doctor, I'd like to propose something." "What would that be?" "I want to work here as a volunteer." Dr. Arthur was surprised. "What kind of volunteer work?" "Anything that's needed. Cleaning, feeding the animals, helping visitors." "Is your motivation to help the animals or to be near Caleb?" Madison was taken aback by the direct question. "Both. But mainly to help the animals. Madison, working at a sanctuary is no joke. It's hard, dirty, and sometimes dangerous work. I'm willing to face it. And what will your father think of this?" "I don't plan to tell him, at least not at first." Dr. Arthur thought for a few minutes. "All right, but with some conditions." "What are they?" "First, you'll work the afternoon shift when Caleb isn't here. I don't want problems with your father." "Okay." "Second, you'll start with the simplest tasks. Cleaning small cages, preparing food, organizing materials." "Perfect." "Third, if you miss 3 times without a valid reason, the volunteer work ends." "I won't miss." "And fourth, you can't tell anyone about your involvement here until I authorize it." Madison agreed to all the conditions. Dr. Arthur decided to give the girl a chance, curious to see if she was truly willing to do hard work. On her first day, Madison arrived at the sanctuary at 2 in the afternoon wearing simple clothes and old sneakers. Her first task was to clean the parrot cages. The work was harder than she had imagined. The animals made a lot of mess, and the smell was strong. Her hands, accustomed to expensive moisturizer, became dry in just a few hours. But Madison didn't give up. She cleaned all the assigned cages and even asked for more tasks. The veterinarian supervising her was impressed by the girl's determination. "Madison, are you sure you want to continue? It's very hard work." "I'm sure. Actually, I'm enjoying it." "Enjoying what, specifically?" "Feeling useful, knowing I'm making a difference in these animals' lives." In the following days, Madison continued working at the sanctuary. She learned to prepare different types of feed, identify signs of illness in the animals, and maintain feeding records. The work was tiring, but rewarding. Madison began to understand why Caleb was so passionate about it. There was something special about the relationship with the animals, a connection she had never experienced before. After 2 weeks of working in secret, Madison decided to tell Caleb. She sent a message explaining her volunteer work at the sanctuary. "You're working at the sanctuary?" he replied, surprised. "Yes, as a volunteer." "Why?" "Because I want to understand your world. I want to show you that I can do hard work." "Madison, you don't need to prove anything to me." "Yes, I do. You think I'm just a spoiled rich girl. I want to show you I'm more than that. I never thought you were spoiled, but you think I'm incompatible with your life. I think our worlds are different, and I'm proving I can adapt to your world." Caleb was moved by Madison's gesture, but also worried. "Does your father know about this?" "No, and for now he'll continue not knowing." "Madison, this could cause trouble." "It will only cause trouble if you tell someone." "I won't tell, but you should talk to him." "I'll talk when I'm ready." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. During the following weeks, Madison continued her double routine. Student in the morning and volunteer worker in the afternoon. She began to develop calluses on her hands and muscles she didn't know existed, but she never complained. Dr. Arthur was genuinely impressed by the girl's dedication. She not only fulfilled her duties, but showed real interest in learning about animal care. "Madison, you have a talent for this." "Really?" "Yes. The animals trust you. That's something you can't teach." "I think I learned by watching Caleb. He has a special way with them. Caleb is exceptional indeed, but you're developing your own style." The veterinarian's approval meant a lot to Madison. For the first time in her life, she was being recognized for something she had achieved through her own effort. One afternoon, While caring for the smaller felines, Madison observed a wild cat that seemed sick. It was lethargic, eating little, and isolating itself from the other animals. She reported her observations to the veterinarian in charge, who confirmed the animal was indeed having health problems. "How did you notice?" asked the veterinarian. "He was different from the others. Less active, no interest in food." "Excellent observation. You're learning to read the signs the animals give us." Madison was proud to have identified the problem. She was truly developing specific skills for that work. That night, she told Caleb about her first medical discovery. "You identified signs of illness in Stripe?" he asked, impressed. "I did. The vet said it was a good observation." It really was. Stripe is one of the hardest felines to assess. He's always been a bit aloof. "I think I learned from you. I always pay attention to each animal's behavior. I'm proud of you." This was the first time Caleb had shown genuine admiration for Madison. She felt she was finally earning his respect. "Caleb, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you still think we're from incompatible worlds?" Caleb took a moment to answer. "I think you're showing you can adapt to my world, but there are still obstacles." "What obstacles?" "Your family, my past, society. Those things don't matter to me." "They should matter, especially your family." "My family will have to accept me as I am." "And if they don't?" "Then I'll make my own choices." Caleb grew worried about Madison's determination. He didn't want to be responsible for problems in her family. "Madison, I don't want you to fight with your family because of me. It won't be because of you. It will be for my freedom of choice." The conversation was interrupted by a call on Madison's cell phone. It was her mother asking where she was. "I'm at Chloe's house studying for a test," Madison lied. After hanging up, Caleb scolded her. "I don't like that you lie to your family." "It's a temporary lie, until I'm ready to tell the truth. A temporary lie is still a lie." "Caleb, have you never hidden anything from your parents?" "I've never lied about important things." "How do you define what's important?" "Anything that can affect other people." "My work at the sanctuary doesn't affect anyone." "Yes, it does. It affects your parents, it affects me, and it could affect Dr. Arthur if your father finds out and gets angry." Madison realized Caleb was right, but she wasn't ready to face her father's reaction. "Just a few more weeks, then I'll tell everything." "All right, but don't wait too long." The next day, Dr. Arthur called Madison for a talk. "Madison, I need to speak with you about something important." "What happened?" "I received an interesting proposal from a university. They want me to recommend a talented young person for a veterinary medicine scholarship." "What kind of scholarship?" "A full scholarship, including housing and meals. It's a unique opportunity." "Are you going to recommend Caleb?" "That was my intention. But first I wanted to know your opinion." "My opinion? Why?" "Because you two have a special friendship, and because you're working here and might have interesting perspectives on his career." Madison felt conflicted. On one hand, she wanted Caleb to have every possible opportunity. On the other, she knew a scholarship would mean he'd move far away. "It's a scholarship to study where?" "At the Metropolitan University of New York, one of the best in the country for veterinary medicine." "New York City is far from here." "It is, but it would be a unique chance for Caleb. He could graduate with renowned professors, make important contacts in the field." "Have you spoken to him about this yet?" "Not yet. I wanted to talk to you first." "Why?" "Because I notice you two care for each other, and I don't want to create a personal problem by offering something that might separate you." Madison was touched by the veterinarian's consideration. "Dr. Arthur, what's best for Caleb should be the priority. If this scholarship will help him achieve his dreams, then he should accept. Even knowing you'll be apart. Even knowing I can't be an obstacle to his growth." Dr. Arthur was impressed by the maturity of her response. "You're a special girl, Madison. I'm just trying to do the right thing." "You are. I'll talk to Caleb tomorrow." That night, Madison kept thinking about the possibility of Caleb moving to New York City. It was an opportunity he deserved, but it would mean the end of their relationship before it even officially began. She decided not to tell Caleb about the conversation with Dr. Arthur Vance. It would be better to let the veterinarian make the proposal directly. The next day, Dr. Vance sought out Caleb at the start of the early morning shift. "Caleb, I need to talk to you about a professional opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" Dr. Vance explained about the scholarship. Caleb was silent for several minutes. "It's an amazing offer, doctor, but I need to think." "About what specifically?" "About several things. My mother, my job here, my life." "Does your personal life include Madison?" Caleb was surprised by the direct question. "What do you mean?" "Caleb, I'm not blind. I know you two like each other, and I know she's been working here as a volunteer." "You know about her volunteer work?" "Of course. I authorized it, and I'm impressed with her dedication." "She didn't tell me you knew, because I asked for secrecy. I wanted to see if she was truly committed to the work, or if it was just a whim." "And what was your conclusion?" "That she's genuine. She has a talent for working with animals and is willing to dedicate herself." Caleb became even more admiring of Madison. "Back to the scholarship," continued Dr. Vance. "Do you think she would be an obstacle to your decision?" "Not an obstacle, but it's a factor to consider." "Why?" "Because I know she's going through difficulties at home because of me. It wouldn't be fair to leave her in an even more complicated situation." "And if she agreed with you going to New York City?" "I don't know. I'd have to talk to her." "Talk? But remember, this opportunity might not come again." "I will talk, and I'll give an answer in a few days." That same night, Caleb called Madison. "We need to meet in person. It's important." "Did something happen?" "Yes. I need to tell you something and hear your opinion." They arranged to meet at the sanctuary the next morning, before Madison started her volunteer shift. Caleb arrived early and was waiting at the gate when she appeared. "What happened?" asked Madison, worried. Caleb told her about the scholarship proposal. Madison pretended to be surprised, not revealing she already knew about the conversation. "It's an incredible opportunity," she said with forced enthusiasm. "It is, but it means going far from here." "And you're in doubt?" "I am. Because of you." "Caleb, you can't refuse an opportunity like that because of me." "Why not? Would you refuse something important because of me?" "Yes, I would, but that would be my choice, and it would be wrong." "How would it be wrong?" "Because when you truly like someone, you want what's best for that person, even if it means being apart." Caleb was moved by the answer. "You would really think that way?" "I do think that way. Caleb, you have a special talent. You could become an exceptional veterinarian and help many animals. You can't waste this chance." "And what about us?" "We'll find a way. New York City isn't another planet. But it's a 4-year course, and afterwards I'll probably want to specialize. So it's a few years. People who love each other can overcome distance and time." "Did you say you love me?" Madison blushed. "Yes, I did, because it's true." Caleb hugged her for the first time since they'd met. "I love you too, Madison, and that's why this decision is so difficult. It should be easy. If you love me, you want to see me proud of you, and I will be very proud when you graduate as a veterinarian." They stayed embraced for a few minutes, both moved by the declarations. It was the first time they had expressed their feelings openly. "Okay," said Caleb. "I'll accept the scholarship." "Are you sure?" "I am. You convinced me. When do you need to give your answer?" "Doctor, Arthur said it's for this week. And when would classes start?" "Next semester, in 2 months." Madison felt a tightness in her chest. 2 months was very little time. "Let's make the most of every day of these 2 months." "How?" "Your father won't let you have contact with me." "My father doesn't know about my work here. We can meet at the sanctuary." "Madison, you need to tell your family about your volunteer work." "Why?" "Because they have a right to know, and because it's not right to keep lying." "I'm lying to protect our friendship." "But the lie could harm our friendship if it's discovered." "It won't be discovered." "What if it is?" Madison fell silent. She knew Caleb was right, but she was afraid of her father's reaction. Just a few more weeks. Let me finish my first month of volunteer work. Then I'll tell them everything. Okay. But as soon as you complete a month, you tell them. I promise. They said goodbye with another hug. Madison began her workday in a better mood, knowing Caleb would accept the scholarship and that they had finally admitted their feelings. However, she still needed to face the difficult task of revealing everything to her family. During the next few weeks, Madison and Caleb took every opportunity to talk at the sanctuary. She arrived earlier for her volunteer work, and he stretched his schedule a bit so they could meet. Their moments together were precious. They talked about everything: plans for the future, books they were reading, experiences with the sanctuary animals. The connection between them deepened with each conversation. Caleb taught Madison about animal behavior, and she absorbed every piece of information like a sponge. He was impressed by how quickly she learned and applied the concepts. "You really have a knack for this," he said, after Madison correctly identified signs of stress in an injured bird. "I learned from the best teacher. Dr. Arthur is very good indeed." "I wasn't talking about Dr. Arthur." Caleb smiled. It was rare for him to show satisfaction with compliments, but Madison's comments always touched him especially. One day, while working together feeding the felines, Madison asked about Caleb's plans for after graduation. "Do you want to work at a zoo? A private clinic? Research?" "My dream is to work with endangered species conservation, maybe in national parks or environmental reserves." "Why?" "Because that's where I can make the most difference. Many animals are disappearing because of human action. I want to help reverse that process." "That's a beautiful goal. And you? Have you thought about what you want to do with your life?" "I was thinking about business administration like my father wants, but now I'm not sure." "Why aren't you sure?" "Because I've discovered I like working with social causes, with things that really matter." Business administration can be used for social causes. Non-governmental organizations need good administrators. I'd never thought of that. You could combine business administration with your interests in environmental conservation. It would be a great combination. Caleb's suggestion planted a seed in Madison's head. She began to imagine a future where she could work on environmental preservation projects. "Caleb, do you think I could work at an organization like this someday?" "Of course. You have natural talent and are willing to learn. You just need the technical training." "What kind of training?" "It could be business administration, but with a focus on environmental management, or biology, if you want to go deeper into the scientific side." "Biology would be interesting." "It would, and you could specialize in conservation." For the first time since starting high school, Madison had a clear idea of what she wanted to do with her life. And this idea was directly connected to Caleb's world. That night, she told her mother about her new career perspective. "Mum, I've been thinking about college." "That's good. Have you decided what you want to study?" "I'm considering biology." Eleanor was surprised. "Biology? Why?" "I've become interested in environmental conservation. I think it's an important field." "And where did this interest come from?" "From conversations with some people." Eleanor suspected her daughter's interest was related to the young caretaker. "Madison, are you sure this is a personal choice? You're not being influenced by someone, are you?" "I'm being influenced by reality. The world is going through a serious environmental crisis, and we need qualified people to help." "It's a valid concern, but have you thought about the practical aspects? Career, salary, stability?" "Mum, I don't want to choose a profession just for the money." "It's not just about the money. It's about security, and about making the most of your potential." "My potential can be used to help the environment." Eleanor realized it was no use arguing. Her daughter was determined to follow this path. "All right, let's research the biology program. See which are the best universities, the career options." "Thank you, Mom, for supporting me. I will always support your decisions, as long as they are made carefully." That same night, Eleanor told her husband about the conversation with Madison. Harrison was annoyed. "Biology? Where did she get that idea?" "She said she became interested in environmental conservation." "That's the influence of the sanctuary boy. I'm sure of it." "It could be, but it's a legitimate interest. It's the interest of a lovesick teenager. In a few months she'll change her mind." What if she doesn't? She will. And even if she doesn't, I won't allow her to throw away her future over a silly crush. Harrison, our daughter is not our property. She has the right to make choices. She has the right to make smart choices. Dropping business administration to study biology is not a smart choice. Eleanor disagreed with her husband's rigidity, but decided not to argue at the moment. She knew forcing the issue would only make things worse. The next day, Harrison decided to take more drastic action. He called Madison's school and asked to speak with the academic coordinator. "How has my daughter's performance been in recent weeks?" "Madison has always been an exemplary student. She continues to get good grades." "And her behavior? Have you noticed any changes?" "Not specifically. Why do you ask?" "I'm concerned about some external influences she might be receiving." "What kind of influences?" "I'd prefer not to go into details, but I'd like you to keep an eye out for any significant changes in her behavior or interests." "Of course. We'll observe more carefully." Harrison also hired a detective to discreetly follow Madison. He wanted to find out if she was secretly meeting Caleb. The detective began tracking Madison's routine. Within a few days, he discovered her volunteer work at the sanctuary. He also documented the meetings between her and Caleb. When Harrison received the report with photos of Madison working at the sanctuary and talking to Caleb, he exploded with anger. "This girl is completely disobeying me," he shouted at Eleanor. "What are you talking about?" Harrison showed the photos to his wife. Eleanor was surprised but also impressed. "Our daughter is working. That's a good thing, not a bad thing. She's working in secret, lying to us, and meeting with that boy against our wishes. Harrison, maybe it's time to reevaluate your position on Caleb." "Reevaluate how?" "Look at these photos. Our daughter is genuinely working, learning, growing, and from what I can see, he is supporting that growth. He is manipulating her. It doesn't seem like manipulation to me. It seems like positive influence. Eleanor, are you taking our daughter's side against me?" "I'm not taking sides against you. I'm trying to help you see the situation more clearly." Harrison did not want to listen. He decided to go immediately to the sanctuary to confront Madison. It was mid-afternoon when Harrison arrived at the sanctuary. He went straight to look for Dr. Arthur Vance. "Doctor, I found out my daughter has been working here in secret. She is working as a volunteer, and she is doing excellent work." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because she asked for confidentiality, and I respected her request." "She is a minor. You should have informed me." "Mr. Sterling, volunteer work is not illegal, and she shows genuine dedication." "Where is she?" "In the primate sector." Harrison went straight to the indicated location. He found Madison cleaning cages and talking affectionately to the monkeys. "Madison!" he shouted. She turned around, startled. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I came to get you. We're leaving right now." "But I haven't finished today's work yet." "What work?" "You shouldn't be here." "Why not?" "I am helping an important cause." "You are disobeying my orders and lying to your family." The other staff began to observe the argument. Madison was embarrassed. "Dad, can we talk in private?" "There is nothing to talk about. You come with me now." "I'm not going." Harrison was shocked by the answer. "What do you mean you're not going?" "I haven't finished my work. These cages need to be cleaned." "Forget these cages. You are not a cleaner." "Today I am, and I will finish my responsibility." "Madison, are you defying me?" "I am fulfilling my commitments." Harrison realized he was losing control of the situation. He decided to change his strategy. "Fine, finish your work, but afterwards we are going to have a serious talk at home." "Okay." Harrison left, but first he looked for Dr. Arthur Vance again. "Doctor, my daughter's volunteer work ends today." "Why?" "Because I am forbidding it." "Mr. Sterling, she is a dedicated volunteer. It would be a loss for us." "I don't care about your loss. My daughter will not set foot in this sanctuary again." "And if she wants to continue when she turns 18, when she turns 18 she can do whatever she wants. Until then, I decide." Dr. Arthur Vance realized it was useless to argue. Harrison was unyielding. When Madison finished her work, Dr. Arthur Vance called her for a talk. Madison, your father has forbidden you from continuing as a volunteer. She was devastated. Can he do that? Unfortunately, yes. You are a minor. Dr. Vance, working here was so important to me. I learned so much. And we learned from you too. You are a special young woman. Can I at least say goodbye to the animals? Of course. Madison took one last walk through the sanctuary, saying goodbye to each animal she had cared for. When she reached the feline sector, she found Caleb waiting for her. I heard what happened. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Yes, it is. If it weren't for our friendship, you could still be working here. Caleb, don't blame yourself. I did this because I wanted to. And now I will have to face my father at home, and it's going to be hard. Do you want me to go with you? I can try to explain. No, that would only make things worse. They hugged one last time before Madison left. Both knew it would be difficult to see each other again after that episode. At home, Madison faced the worst argument of her life with her parents. Harrison was furious, and Eleanor was disappointed with her daughter's lies. How could you deceive us like that? Asked Eleanor. I didn't want to deceive. I just wanted a chance to prove I can work. Work! Exploded Harrison. You don't need to work. You have everything you want at home, but I want to feel useful. I want to do something important. Isn't studying important? Preparing to take over the family business isn't important. It is important. But I also want to help social causes. Social causes? Harrison laughed with irony. Is that the influence of the cleaning lady's son? Caleb has nothing to do with this. He has everything to do with it. Before meeting him, you had never shown interest in this nonsense. It's not nonsense. Environmental conservation is an urgent necessity. For whom? For the freeloaders who don't want to work and invent these causes to get money from others? Madison was outraged by her father's comment. Daddy, how can you say such a thing? Caleb works more in one day than many people do in a week. Caleb, I'm tired of hearing that name, and I'm tired of your prejudice. Prejudice? I'm prejudiced because I don't want my daughter involved with someone who could destroy her future. Caleb won't destroy anything. He inspires me to be a better person. He inspires you to lie to your family. He inspires me to fight for what I believe in. The argument continued for over an hour, with neither of them giving in. Finally, Harrison gave an ultimatum. Madison, you will choose. Either cut off all contact with that boy or leave my house. Daddy, you can't force me to make that choice. Yes, I can. This is my house, and I set the rules. And if I choose to leave, then leave. But don't count on a single cent from me. Eleanor tried to intervene. Harrison, you're overreacting. Madison is our daughter. She's our daughter, as long as she respects our authority. Madison looked at her father with tears in her eyes. Okay, Daddy, I'll leave. Madison, no, shouted Eleanor. Mom, I can't live in a house where I don't have the freedom to choose. Madison went to her room, grabbed some clothes and documents, and left the house that same night. Eleanor was devastated, and Harrison, despite his firm stance, was also shaken. Madison went to a friend's house from school, who took her in temporarily. The next day she called Caleb and told him what had happened. You left home because of me, he asked desperately. I left because my father doesn't respect my choices. Madison, you need to go back home. I can't be responsible for this. You're not responsible for anything. The responsibility lies with my father, who chose pride over his daughter's happiness. But you can't stay at someone else's house forever. I won't. I'll manage on my own. How? I'll look for a job, finish high school at night, go to college on a scholarship. Madison, that's very hard. You're not prepared for an independent life. I'll learn. You learned. Caleb was moved by her determination, but also worried. Let me talk to your mother. Maybe I can mediate this situation. It won't help. My father is very stubborn, but I have to try. I can't let you pay this price because of me. That afternoon, Caleb went to Harrison's house. When Eleanor answered the door, she was surprised. Caleb? What are you doing here? Mrs. Eleanor, I need to speak with Mr. Sterling. I don't know if that's a good idea. Please, it's about Madison. Eleanor hesitated but ended up calling her husband. Harrison appeared at the door with a hostile expression. "What do you want?" "Mr. Sterling, I came to ask you to forgive Madison and let her come back home. She can come back whenever she wants, as long as she cuts off contact with you." "Then I'll cut off contact with her." Harrison was surprised by the answer. "How?" "I'll ask her not to speak to me anymore. I'll leave her life." "Why?" "Because she needs her family, and because it's not worth her suffering because of me." "Are you serious?" "I am. But I have one condition." "What condition?" "You have to allow her to pursue her dreams. If she wants to work in environmental conservation, you have to support her." "Why would I do that?" "Because it's the only way for her to be happy, and you love your daughter, don't you?" Harrison was silent for a few minutes. "You would really cut off contact with her?" "I would. And I'm going to New York City to study veterinary medicine. I'll only come back when I graduate." "And then?" "Then she'll be graduated too. An adult, independent. Then she can decide if she still wants anything to do with me." Caleb's proposal caught Harrison off guard. It was exactly what he wanted, to separate the two young people. But he didn't expect Caleb to offer this voluntarily. "All right, if you keep your part of the deal, I'll allow Madison to come back and pursue whatever career she wants." "Thank you, Mr. Sterling. But if you break the agreement, if you have any contact with her, the deal is off." "Understood." They shook hands, sealing the agreement. Caleb left with a broken heart, knowing he had just given up the person he loved. That night, Caleb called Madison. "I need to tell you something important." "What?" "I talked to your father. He's going to let you come back home." "What kind of conversation did you have?" "I promised I would cut off contact with you." "What?" shouted Madison. "Why would you do that?" "Because you need your family, and because I don't want to be responsible for your unhappiness." "Caleb, you can't make this decision for me." "I already have. And in return, your father will allow you to pursue whatever career you want." "I don't want any career without you." "Yes, you will. In time, you'll see it was the right decision." Madison was devastated. She couldn't believe Caleb had given up fighting for them. "So that's it?" she asked, crying. "At the first sign of trouble, you give up." "I'm not giving up. I'm prioritizing your well-being." "My well-being includes you." "It doesn't. You only think it does because you're very young. Don't treat me like a child. I'm not treating you like a child. I'm being realistic." "Realistic? Or a coward?" The accusation hurt Caleb deeply. "Maybe I am a coward, but it's a cowardice with you in mind. I don't want you thinking of me. I want you to fight for us. Madison, some loves aren't meant to be. Ours is one of them." "That's not true." "It is. And the sooner we accept it, the less we'll suffer." The conversation ended with Madison hanging up on Caleb. She spent the rest of the night crying, unable to accept that he had given up on everything. The next day, Eleanor went to pick up Madison from her friend's house. The girl returned home devastated, but respecting Caleb's decision. During the following weeks, Harrison kept his part of the agreement. He supported Madison's decision to study biology and even offered to pay for a good private college. Madison threw herself into her studies, using it as a way to forget the pain of the separation. She earned a full scholarship to an excellent university and stood out from the first semester. Meanwhile, Caleb left for New York City to begin his veterinary studies. He also dedicated himself fully to his studies but couldn't forget Madison. For 4 years they had no contact at all. Caleb graduated with highest honors and secured a specialization in wildlife conservation. Madison graduated in biology with academic honors and completed a master's in environmental management. When Caleb returned to his hometown after graduating, he learned that Dr. Arthur was about to retire and that the Hope Wildlife Sanctuary was going through financial difficulties. He decided to return to work at the place that had changed his life. Madison, who had graduated 2 months earlier, was working at an environmental consulting firm when she learned of Caleb's return. She was torn between seeking him out or respecting the distance he had imposed. Their reunion happened by chance. Madison was visiting the sanctuary to conduct an environmental assessment for one of her clients when she found Caleb caring for an orphaned jaguar cub. "Hi, Caleb. He turned, surprised. Madison, you look different. 4 years make a difference. You look different too. They stared at each other for a few seconds, both nervous. I heard you became a veterinarian. Congratulations. Thank you, and you? Did you graduate in biology? I did, and I got a master's in environmental management. I'm so proud. I always knew you'd be successful. And you? Are you happy with your career? I am. It's everything I ever dreamed of. They talked for a few minutes about their respective careers, but avoided personal topics. The tension in the air was palpable. Well, Madison finally said, I need to finish my assessment. Of course. I don't want to get in your way. You're not in the way. They said goodbye politely, but both were unsettled by the reunion. It was obvious the feelings were still there, despite the time and distance. In the following days, they began to meet casually at the sanctuary. Madison always arranged professional excuses to visit the place, and Caleb always showed up in the sectors where she was working. Finally, Dr. Arthur, who had been observing the situation with interest, decided to intervene. Are you two going to keep up this dance forever, or are you going to have a real conversation? What are you talking about? Asked Caleb, pretending not to understand. Caleb, I've known you for years, and I know Madison too. You still have feelings for each other. That doesn't matter anymore. Of course it matters. You're two mature, educated, independent people. What's the problem now? Caleb fell silent. The problem is pride, continued Dr. Arthur. Yours and her father's. Doctor, some things can't be undone. Some indeed cannot, but true love always finds a way. That afternoon, Caleb decided to look for Madison. He found her in the sanctuary's administrative area, analyzing financial reports. Can I talk to you? Of course. I want to apologize for what happened 4 years ago. You don't need to apologize. You did what you thought was right. But it wasn't right. It was cowardly, as you said. Caleb, let me finish. I spent these 4 years thinking about you every day, questioning whether I made the biggest mistake of my life. And did you reach a conclusion? I did. I did make the biggest mistake of my life. Madison felt her eyes fill with tears. And now? Now I want to know if I still have any chance with you. Caleb, so much has changed. I know. We changed. We grew up. But what I feel for you hasn't changed. How can you be sure? Because I'm here. Because I left a promising career in New York City to come back to this small town where you live. You came back because of me. I came back because this is my place, and my place is where you are. Madison couldn't hold back her tears. Caleb, those were the 4 hardest years of my life. For me too. How can we be sure it will work now? We can't, but we can try. They embraced, finally releasing 4 years of longing and pain. It was as if no time had passed. And my father? Asked Madison. He still doesn't accept our relationship. Let's talk to him, together. We're different people than we were 4 years ago. Are you brave enough? I am. For you, I'm brave enough for anything. That night, Madison told her mother about the reunion with Caleb. Eleanor was happy for her daughter, but worried about her husband's reaction. Honey, your father still holds a grudge about all that. Mom, we're adults now. He'll have to accept. I'm not sure he'll accept easily. Then he'll have to accept with difficulty. I won't give up my happiness again. The next day, Madison and Caleb went together to Harrison's house. Eleanor received them nervously, but invited them in. When Harrison saw Caleb in his living room, his face twisted with anger. What is he doing here? Dad, we came to talk to you, said Madison. We have nothing to discuss. Yes, we do, about our future. What future? You have no future. Caleb stood up and looked directly into Harrison's eyes. Mr. Sterling, I know you hate me, but I want to ask for your daughter's hand in marriage. The silence that followed was deafening. Harrison was so surprised he couldn't react immediately. Marriage, he finally repeated. Yes, I have loved your daughter for 8 years, I respected your wish to separate us. I graduated. I became a respected professional. Now I want to build a family with her. You think because you graduated, you've become somebody. Mr. Sterling, said Madison, if you insult Caleb, I will leave this house and never come back. Harrison, Eleanor intervened, perhaps it's time to hear what they have to say. Harrison was silent for a few minutes, clearly disturbed. And what do you plan to do with your lives? He finally asked. We want to work together on environmental conservation projects, replied Madison. Caleb as a veterinarian specializing in wildlife, me as an environmental manager. And where do you plan to live? Right here. We want to turn this region into a model for environmental conservation. And children. Do you plan to have children? We do, replied Caleb, and we want them to grow up knowing and respecting nature. Harrison looked at his daughter. And you, Madison, are you sure this is what you want? Absolutely, Dad. I've never been so sure of anything in my life. Even knowing you'll have a simpler life than you could have had. Dad, happiness isn't measured by the size of a bank account. Harrison sighed deeply. Caleb, may I speak with you privately? Of course. They went out to the garden, leaving Madison and Eleanor alone in the living room. Caleb, said Harrison, do you know I committed an injustice against your mother many years ago? I know. And do you forgive me for that? I forgive you, but I want you to apologize to her personally. I already did. Last week. Caleb was surprised. How? I went to your house. I apologized to your mother and offered financial compensation for the years of hardship I caused. And did she accept? She refused the compensation. She said she only wanted me to publicly acknowledge her innocence. And will you acknowledge it? I already have. I published a notice in the town newspaper confessing the mistake and apologizing. Caleb was moved. He hadn't expected that from Harrison. Why did you do that? Because I realized I was losing my daughter because of my pride, and because your mother is a dignified woman who didn't deserve what I did to her. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Caleb, I'll be honest with you. I still think you are very different, but Madison chose you and I have to respect that choice. Are you giving your blessing for the marriage? Harrison hesitated for a few seconds. I am, on one condition. What? That you have a beautiful ceremony, so the whole town can see that my daughter married a man who deserves her. Caleb smiled, moved. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. I promise I will take good care of Madison. I know you will. Anyone who is capable of jumping into a lion's cage to save someone's life is capable of any sacrifice for love. They went back inside, where Madison and Eleanor waited anxiously. Well, asked Madison. You have my blessing, said Harrison. But the wedding will be right here on our property, and it will be the most beautiful celebration this town has ever seen. Madison ran to hug her father, crying with emotion. Thank you, Daddy, for understanding. Thank you for giving me the chance to make things right. The wedding reception truly was spectacular. The entire town attended, including all the sanctuary staff and the animals that could be safely transported. Dr. Arthur Vance officiated the ceremony, speaking about how true love can overcome any obstacle. Martha Dawson, Caleb's mother, was treated as the guest of honor by Harrison, who made a point of introducing her to everyone as the strongest and most dignified woman I know. During the ceremony, when Caleb and Madison exchanged rings, Zeus, the lion who had made their meeting possible, roared in the distance as if blessing their union. 3 years after the wedding, Caleb and Madison had transformed the Hope Wildlife Sanctuary into the largest environmental conservation center in the region. The project attracted visitors from across the country and had become a model for environmental education. They had also become parents to twins, Noah and Olivia, who spent their days playing among the sanctuary animals under the watchful care of the staff, who had become one big family. Harrison, who had initially resisted the relationship so much, had become the world's most doting grandfather. He would tell anyone who would listen that his grandchildren were the smartest and most beautiful babies on earth, and that they had inherited their father's courage and their mother's determination. Caleb fulfilled his dream of working with endangered species conservation, developing innovative rehabilitation techniques that gained international recognition. He published several scientific papers and became a leading expert in his field. Madison created an environmental education program that served schools throughout the region, teaching children about the importance of nature preservation. She also managed the sanctuary competently, significantly expanding its funding sources. Dr. Arthur Vance, now retired but still active as a sanctuary advisor, loved telling visitors the story of the young keeper who risked his life to save the millionaire's daughter and ended up finding the love of his life. And do you know what the greatest miracle was? He would usually say at the end of the story. It wasn't Caleb taming the lion, it was love taming prejudice. Martha Dawson, who was now respected by the entire community after the public recognition of her innocence, worked part-time at the sanctuary helping with event organization. She said her happiest days were when she could look after her grandchildren, while Caleb and Madison worked. Eleanor had become the most present grandmother in the world, visiting the sanctuary daily to watch her grandchildren grow. She often said that seeing her daughter fulfilled professionally and happy in love was the greatest blessing of her life. And Harrison? Well, Harrison had become the region's biggest advocate for environmental causes. He invested heavily in conservation projects and loved repeating to anyone who would listen that a man's greatest fortune isn't in his bank account, but in his family's happiness. On a sunny afternoon, as he watched Caleb teach their children how to feed the parrots and Madison explain the importance of biodiversity to a group of students, Harrison reflected on how life can take unexpected turns. He thought about how a seemingly terrible accident had turned into the family's greatest blessing, how prejudice had almost destroyed everyone's happiness, and how true love always finds a way to prevail. Zeus, the lion who had inadvertently brought two families together, slept peacefully in the shade of a tree, unaware of his importance in the story. From time to time he would open one eye to watch the children playing near the enclosure, as if he were a silent guardian of that happiness he had helped to create. The end of the story. And what about you, dear listener? What did you think of this journey of overcoming and true love? Do you believe Caleb made the right decision by temporarily letting Madison go so she could grow? And Harrison, did he truly manage to redeem himself from the mistakes of the past? Share your thoughts in the comments with sincere words about how this story touched your heart. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other emotional stories that show how love and perseverance can transform any situation. Thank you for your company on this beautiful journey.